If the Sun Devils are going to take down Oregon this Saturday, they need to follow these three keys to victory. We're going to talk about them on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks as always for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. And you can stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can find me at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's go ahead and just get right into the meat and potatoes of this podcast. And we're going to be taking a look at the three keys to victory here. Let me preface it with this. We should not go into this game thinking we're going to kill Oregon. What we can do is go into this game with optimism. And here's why. This is a Sun Devils team that plays up to their competition. Not down. They play up to it. They went stride for stride with USC. They went stride for stride with Washington and very easily could have beat them. They went to Pasadena and beat UCLA. They played Wazoo the way they were supposed to. They played Cal the way they were supposed to, even though that was a loss. Utah is really the lone exception in terms of Pac-12 play. That's the lone exception to not stepping up this year. With Oregon, an absolute juggernaut, right? We can go ahead and admit that. This is not a game that we're supposed to win, but it's a game that maybe they surprise. Who knows? We've done it before. We weren't supposed to go to Seattle and play Washington close. And yet we held Michael Penix out of the end zone. Michael Penix at the time was the betting favorite to be the Heisman Trophy winner. You're doing things that you're not supposed to do. So who knows in this game? You know, I'm trying to put my analyst cap on, but you can see that it is a Sun Devils cap. I'm doing my best. But let's finally get into the three keys to victory with a little bit of preface on how I'm entering this game. First key to victory here, that's going to be containing the big play. This has been the story of the Sun Devils all year, is they do such a good job defensively in placing opposing offenses in uncomfortable situations, third and longs, or situations where they need a score to go up. And then a big play happens. The perfect example was what Caleb Williams did against ASU in that USC game. Constantly third and longs. There was a 3rd and 23 or something like that to start the game. He converted it. It just can't happen. Throughout the year too. It's not like it's just been a single game incident. No. This has been something that we have seen all year from the Sun Devils against Colorado, against UCLA, against Wazoo, kind of, sort of, I suppose. They had some big plays. Utah, obviously, this is a team that is susceptible to big plays. And this is not a game where you can afford those big plays. And the bad news is you're going up against one of the best offenses in all of college football. Not just the Pac-12, the entire landscape of college football. This is an unbelievable offense. It starts with Bo Nix. Bo Nix, for my money's worth, is the Heisman Trophy winner this year. He is so unbelievably good at throwing the football. He's somebody who can manipulate the pocket. He does not take sacks. Here's a fun fact for you. In a little less than 2 years at Oregon, he has been sacked a whopping 9 times. That's it. Just 9. 9 times in close to 30 games played. That's insane. And that's likely not going to change in this game because as quality as the pass rush has been this year, they can disappear at times. Look at the Washington game. Against a great offensive line, they could not bring down Penix. Now, they did get pressure, but they couldn't bring him down. No sacks in that game. This feels like probably the best case scenario for the Sun Devils in this game, is being able to apply some pressure and whatnot, but I don't know if they can finish sacks, especially against a guy who does not get sacked. But that therein lies the problem, is you need to find a way to be able to finish those plays, because if you can't bring down Bo Nix, he's going to have big plays. He's got big play guys. Troy Franklin, one of the best receivers in the country, let alone the Pac-12. Tez Johnson, one of the best receivers in the Pac-12, certainly one of the best number 2 receivers at a minimum. Bucky Irving, the running back, who should be, in my opinion at least, he should be a first-team all Pac-12 selection. They've got Jordan James. Bo Nix can even do stuff with his legs too. Their tight end, Terrence Ferguson, also really good. They've got guys all over the place that can make big plays. Last week against USC, the first 2 completions for Bo Nix went for an 84-yard touchdown to Troy Franklin and a 77-yard touchdown to Tez Johnson. That's the kind of offense we're talking about here. They are able to do anything and everything offensively like that. Snappy your fingers, and they just pulled out a 50-yard play. Like, it just happens. So for Arizona State, you cannot let them consistently do it. It's going to happen. I promise you, it's going to happen. Even in a defensive slugfest you had against Washington, they still had splash plays. Rome Odunze still had big plays. It's not like the Sun Devils are going to completely take them away from Oregon. Instead, you want to contain it. You can't stop it. You want to contain it. Limit the big plays. If you're giving up 2 or 3 big plays in the game, I'd call that a win, because this is a team that could easily have 10. And by a big play, I would say 20 plus yards. This is a team that should easily, on paper, have double digit in this game. So for Arizona State, you need to find a way to limit them. I would say 5 or less is going to give you a really good opportunity. Preferably less than 5, like 3 or under would probably give you the best opportunity. I will set my standard at 5 or fewer 20-yard plus plays, rushing, receiving, whatever. Bottom line here, though, is you just need to find a way to be able to contain the big play. If you are unable to do that, Oregon is going to run you off the field, because they can do it in so many different ways. And when you're facing a team that does so many different things so well, you're just going to have a long day, man. So that's the bottom line here. You're going up against a team that consistently puts up big plays. Find a way to contain it. Want to talk to you about our friends over at LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire, it can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You know, as a small business owner, that's the best thing that you can possibly do. And guess what? You can set it up in minutes. Once you do that, add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile and spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you want to interview and hire. Of course, having that right team member can have a positive and measurable impact on your business. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, I also want to talk to you about our friends over at Athletic Brewing. They are kind enough to sponsor the Game Changer of the Week. Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Just the way that they are changing how those non-alcoholic brews are tasting. You have guys like Troy O'Mary who are game changers. You get him the ball, he makes a big play. It's a field stretcher. He's a guy who finds the end zone. He changes the way that you see things offensively, just like how Athletic Brewing has changed the non-alcoholic beer game. Their brews are great tasting, award-winning, and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions, guys. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beers, including IPAs, Golden, Sours, and more. They're fit for all times. So if you're watching the big game, you're watching your kids' games, you're working out, whatever, it makes the activity even more fun and enjoyable. And of course, with it being non-alcoholic, there's no hangovers ever. You can find Athletic in store, online, and at bars around the country. You can also go to their website, athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% of your online order. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. As always, thanks for tuning in. Wherever you get those podcasts, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top stories across the league, whatever league, actually, with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering the league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe for the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. I know I'm tuned in and I am subscribed myself. Let's get to the next key to victory here for the Sun Devils, and that's going to be maintaining your unique play calls. If you watch the UCLA win, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, with that in mind, I'm not necessarily saying you need to do that widespread scheme that you used against UCLA, because quite frankly, there's going to be tape on it now. And a defensive coach of the caliber of Dan Lanning is not going to, waltz into this game without watching his tape and understanding what ASU did, how they were able to do it, how they manipulated UCLA's defense. Oregon's going to come into this game with some kind of idea of how they're going to manage the kind of mishaps here. So it's not necessarily using the same formula. What it is maintaining that unpredictable factor. Let's flash back to the USC game. It was the first game that Kenny Dillingham really started to take the reins as the offensive caller for the team. Once he started taking over, you started to see an offense that was so unorthodox that, as I have said many times on this podcast, it got to a point where you kind of sat there and you're like, how do you even adapt? How do you adjust to an offense that you can't predict? You've got guys like Cameron Scadaboo, who is up for the Paul Hornung Award, which is the most versatile player in the country. You can vote for it right now. I've retweeted it. The Locked On Sun Devils page has retweeted it. Go vote. It's a tight race right now. He is actually leading over a Utah player whose name is escaping me, and Travis Hunter at Colorado. So, side note, go vote for Cameron Scadaboo to win this award. There's 18 total votes. 17 are by experts or whatever you want to call them. And then 1 vote is from the fans. Your guys' vote matters. Go vote for Cameron Scadaboo. You can vote once every 24 hours. Back to our conversation. Scadaboo is the kind of guy that is able to unlock so many different things for you, right? This is the way you need to approach this game as well. You need him to be that unpredictable, unorthodox kind of player. Have him in the Sparky package where he's running the football himself and taking snaps. Have him throwing the football. I'm not saying 20 times a game. I'm not even saying twice a game, but find a way where he can be used in more than one way, because he is that kind of player. Guys like Elijah Badger, see how you can mix it up. Have him run deep, have him run shallow, do those jet sweeps, give him carries. Do whatever you got to do. Jalen Conyers is also a guy that they have had some success moving around. Have him get under center for tight end pushes and stuff like that. I understand the results have been mixed, but it's that kind of play that you need to have in this game. You need to go in with the philosophy of doing so much unpredictable kind of play calling that you get to a point where Oregon doesn't know how to adjust to it. You've got the guys to do it. And quite frankly, we've seen all sorts of stuff. Kenny Dillingham threw the fridge at USC. We saw like double passes that went to Drew Pine and went to Trenton Bourquet. That's the kind of stuff we're looking at here. get the quarterbacks moved all over the place. I'm not saying throw to them. I'm not saying have another pass to Trenton Bourguet that goes for 17 or 18 yards. What I'm saying is maintain that unpredictableness that gets to a point where Dan Lanning is going to be scratching his head and the entirety of the USC defense is just not going to know what to do. You know, this could flip to the defensive side of the ball as well. You got to come up with different coverages and blitz schemes and stuff like that. That's 100% true. But when I say maintain unique play calling, I'm talking about the offense specifically, especially against a great defense like Oregon. If you're going to have a chance in this game, what you need to do is find a way to keep them uncomfortable, keep them off balance, keep them honest. You keep a defense that's as good as Oregon's is, you keep them honest, you keep them susceptible to the big plays, you're going to have a lot more success than you would otherwise. So having that unpredictability is going to be one of the biggest factors for a Sun Devils potential win in this game. I got to talk to you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks as well. PrizePicks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. And now I can do basketball too. Select 2 or more players, pick more, pick less on their projected stats, place your entry. With basketball here, you can pick the combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league that is created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. Take an example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 point combo for 3 points made and receptions. If you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players as well, like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can. You can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to find entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community every single week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy that that stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with that insurance policy. They got quick withdrawals, an easy gameplay, enormous selection of players and stat types, and it's what makes PrizePicks number one in the daily fantasy sports world. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use the code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. I again want to shout out the Locked On Sports 24/7 streaming channel that we have on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, 24/7, top stories of the day, local experts. Locked On has with our national shows as well as our experts that are covering their team every day, such as myself. Go to the Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's so cool, guys. It's so cool that we're able to do stuff like that. And I hope that you all appreciate the hard work that we put into this stuff at the end of the day. One more key to victory here. This is something I've mentioned before, and it's even more prevalent against Oregon. Touchdowns, not field goals. And that's something that the Sun Devils have struggled with all year long. Finding ways into the end zone. It's not good enough to get field goals. It's not good enough to have long drives. It's about getting 6. It's about getting 7. It's about getting 8. That's what's going to keep you in this game. Because this is a high-flying Oregon offense. High-flying. One of the 10 best in the nation at worst. The way you're going to win this game is to go stride for stride with them. And quite frankly, when I say stride for stride, I mean, this could be a 20-17 ball game. The way that happens is that the defense is able to step up. But you know how you help your defense? You have long drives that score touchdowns, or you just flat out get touchdowns, period. Find ways to keep that defense motivated. When you are giving your defense more opportunities to get off of the field, you're giving your defense more opportunities to come out with a little extra pizzazz or razzle-dazzle, whatever. You're giving your defense those opportunities by producing on the offensive side of the football and letting them know, hey, we're good enough to hold up our end of the bargain as well. That's what you need to do if you're Arizona State. Find ways to motivate the defense. You can motivate your defense by scoring those touchdowns. You score touchdowns, you win games. It's really easy, right? Well, that's part of the reason why the Sun Devils haven't won a lot of games this year. They're not scoring touchdowns, especially through the air. And this is where you're going to really need Trenton Bourguet to step up. He has just one touchdown pass this year. That he's got to double it, which means he has at least one. But he needs to find the end zone through the air. It's no shortage of weapons. Jalen Conyers is due, man. He hasn't found the end zone yet. He's due for a touchdown. Let's get him in there. Elijah Badger's got 3. Let's get him in there again. Continue to increase his chances to be one of the all Pac-12 players. Let's get Cameron Scadaboo involved in the passing game. Let's get a consistent role for Troy O'Mare. Let's get Melcon Stovall involved. Let's get Andre Johnson involved. Let's get the tight ends involved. Let's get everyone involved. Once you start getting everybody to start steamrolling and playing downhill with the aggressiveness to find your way into the end zone, you're going to find ways to be able to go stride for stride, especially if your defense is able to step up. If the defense can't, look, you're just going to be placed in a terrible situation. This is a tough matchup. This is not for the faint of heart in this game. But the only way you're going to win this game, this is absolutely the biggest key to victory. You have to score touchdowns. 3 points isn't enough because you can kick a field goal. Cool. That's all dandy. But if Oregon has a 10-play drive that chews up 6 minutes and they score 7, what are you supposed to do at that point? I don't know how you're supposed to respond because you can't continually just take 3 points. And Kenny Dillingham knows that too. He has shown that aggressiveness and that mindset to want to go for it. They just haven't been able to convert. And that's where that needs to change this week. You need to find a way to be able to change that kind of narrative here. Hopefully that's exactly what you're able to find. Because if you can't score touchdowns, not only are you going to lose this game, you're going to lose big. Utah was an absolute throttling of the Sun Devils. That could easily be exactly what happens again in this game. You cannot afford to not get into the end zone. You have 2 games left in the year. The best thing you can possibly do is to end the year on a high note and find your way into the end zone more often than what you have this year, right? You've got 14 rushing touchdowns. That's great. You have just 7 passing. That's where it needs to step up. I think by the end of the year, you need to have at least 10 passing touchdowns, man. You got to get to that number. If you're lucky, it would be really cool to just have, I don't know, like close to 30 total touchdowns. You're at 21 right now. And you're not getting the 30. And if you do, I will eat my hat. Like, it'd be absurd to score 9 touchdowns the last 2 games. I think 25 you can live with. But this is a game where you're going to need those touchdowns more than any other game this year. Certainly as big as what you needed against Washington. But what are your guys' keys to victory? Do you think we got a chance in this? Make sure that you're voting for Cameron Scadaboo as well for the Paul Hornig Award. But I appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. Wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications to get an update whenever we post new content. And of course, you can stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can find me at Richie Brads36, the podcast as well, at LO_Sun Devils. We got one more show this week to preview Oregon tomorrow. I will see you guys then. And until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.